Her many voices, her many voices, her many voices, her many voices.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Her Many Voices Foundation live chat for Giving Tuesday with our founder and vision holder, Alicia Fall. And she's going to talk to us about how to grow a house, although we're going to wander through many topics. So welcome, Alicia, to your very own channel's podcast live stream.
Thank you, Aisla. Thank you. Yeah. And, I'm going to preface it by saying I am dealing with the flu. So hopefully I'll keep my voice and, all will be good today.
All will be good today. We might end a little early, out of respect for your being. And I thank you so much for hopping on to share a little bit. So for those of you who are new to Harmony Voices Foundation and the work that we do, it can be summed up by a slogan that you'll see right below here is whatever I do for another, I do for myself. Whatever I do to another, I do to myself. And Alicia's mom actually taught her that when she was young. I'm going to pinch hit a little bit to save her voice for the important things because I can a little bit. So, and just to say that this is an organization that is about uplifting the indigenous knowledge and wisdom that we have, that we know will solve the problems that exist, that we know will build social connection, mutual respect for each other, for the creatures that we inhabit the earth with, as well as our Mother Earth. And it's desperately needed. We desperately need this knowledge. We desperately need this wisdom. It's available, and we need to grasp it and support those who are bringing it forward, which is one of the reasons that I'm here working with the Her Many Voices Foundation and supporting the work that Alicia does, because she has a pathway for that. And the title of this talk is about one of the core programs that we're working to launch and get funding for. And this is Giving Tuesday, so I'm going to say things like, "Hey, donate." But more than that, we want you to understand what this project is, and so if my first invitation is to share what you can, what you feel inspired to share about the Longhouse Project and the tradition of longhouses, and how you have engaged this to be something that is both specific and also community wide.
Yeah. First of all, when you said, oh, we need to do something around how to grow a house, I thought, well, this is a great idea, to start talking about these things around hemp and hempcrete, which we will get into. And it's a hemp longhouse community project that I'm really focused on getting the funding for to get off the ground. Longhouses, this project is a template, right? It's a pilot and a template. Longhouses traditionally for Salagi, the Cherokee people, which my mother's side of the family is Cherokee. These are traditional houses that multiple families would come, they would live in, they would take care of each other, take care of the children, tend to the land together. And it became a cultural center as well, right? So that's traditional. Almost every people has their version of longhouse. I've talked about it multiple times. We all come from tribal people. And if you look at what your ancestors did, you'll find that you'll have your version of a longhouse and how community came together to take care of each other and Mother Earth. And that's really what this is about. And the focus is with hempcrete, because this is something that I started getting involved in maybe about 7 years ago now. As you know, we've been working in Haiti since the 2010 earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was really focused on and looking into is there are two things. One is we want to make sure that we can feed people, and the other is in housing, right?
Mm.
Safe homes, safe food. And hemp can address all of that and so much more. And working with Hempcrete, you can build safe, healthy, sustainable homes. And so I thought, well, this is a wonderful moment where we can, now that the governments are waking up and bringing back hemp into cannabis plant in general into the fold, we have an opportunity to take advantage of what our ancestors did for thousands and thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
This plant was used for multiple purposes. You could eat, you could feed your people, you could house your people, clothing, medicine. There's so many things that you get to do with this plant.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a perfect opportunity, creating a hemp longhouse community and cultural center where we can do cultural exchanges, mostly within indigenous communities, but not exclusive, but cultural exchanges on how to work with this plant. Everything from seed to how do you grow, how do you process, to the end product. If I grow this, what am I going to do with it at the end of it? So we'll
Mm-hmm.
have an opportunity to work with farmers. We'll have an opportunity to work with paper companies, with construction companies. There are a number of directions we get to go to at the end product. But in between, we have an opportunity to work with predominantly Indigenous women to create this community and educate, and then be able to create vocation for many people.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I thought was really brilliant about this plan is that it's more than just one moment, or it's about actually disrupting these cycles
Mhm.
and providing. Most people I think that are paying some attention are aware that the anti-cannabis propaganda and violence was primarily directed at brown people, black people, indigenous people. And so, and of course, as is often the case, the benefits of the new industry are primarily going to white entrepreneurs. And one of the aspects of this program that you developed in partnership with the Universal Basic Resources cohort that you were part of is a entrepreneurial aspect that would provide both skills and then also opportunity for these women, if they were interested in creating their own businesses, to be part of a leading edge. And I believe that it's in the next 8 years, they expect the hemp industry to grow like $16 billion.
Mhm.
And so instead of Black and brown and indigenous women being on the back end of the curve, this is an opportunity really to put them into a position to genuinely take advantage and actually disrupt this this inequity in a small way. But I feel like the small ways are how we're going to build to the big ones. And that's
Absolutely.
one of the things I love about that plan that you have, is that, although I've revealed it now, so hopefully they won't come to get you. I mean, sorry to make
Yeah,
you
I
laugh.
mean, like I said, this is a pilot, right? So we get
Yeah.
to do this in multiple areas. And the reality is based on the climate, because of the climate changes that we're experiencing too,
Hmm.
we are looking to make that systemic change
Yeah.
for people of color, for women, for all of us addressing climate issues.
Hmm.
And this plant gives us a wonderful tool to be able to do that with.
Yeah.
And, if we go back to, there are a lot of people who've been doing this now for a number of years. We call these agrihoods or intentional communities now,
Hmm.
where people are coming together and making these systemic changes. And it's in little ways that have these big impacts.
Yeah.
And we don't have to, we don't have to make something huge in order to have a substantial impact on the environment,
Hmm.
personal as well as what surrounds us.
Well, it's more fulfilling to live in harmony with one another, with the earth. Those and there's so much health benefit to it. They're really doing a lot of academic research to support a lot of this indigenous knowledge, and I do think that that partnership, it has a lot of benefit. I know we had Bob Escher on talking
Mhm.
about hemp, and he has if you look in the for folks that are listening or watching, it's on YouTube and also the Apple Podcasts, and it was a great conversation. And I asked him because he's a little bit maybe curmudgeonly in a good way. And I was
Mhm.
just like, all right, tell me about people talk about hemp like it's a sort of a miracle plant, and I'm a little skeptical anytime I hear that, about anything. And he almost reluctantly, it was kind of adorable. He was like, actually, hemp really is everything they say it is. Like he's like, and you could tell he really had tried to poke holes in that.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. But we know that like water it's like a building block of life, and yet it doesn't follow many of the normal rules that we're used to in physics and the way that we categorize things. And it seems to me like hemp might also be one of those like building blocks, be based on all the things that it can do, like you said, nutritionally, and as well as clothing wise, as well as creating structures, and the fact that it turns around so quickly with low water usage, and sequesters all of those harmful minerals that are in the soils, or chemicals. Like it can clean up the soil. Um, and interestingly, I don't know, when I was researching that, because I was really like, nah, it's not that great. I found a white paper, and the original white paper that proved that hemp sequesters all those chemicals
Mhm.
was actually an attempt to determine what plant was safest to plant in damaged soil. They were
Yes.
like, what takes up the most cotton, hemp, and there was another one they planted, to see what ones could be put in and not accidentally like take in chemicals. And because and in that study they found that hemp did take it all in, actually. All most And they were like, wait a minute. So it's kind of interesting. So they weren't trying to prove anything about hemp being good or bad. They had this whole other agenda and happened to discover that, which I found reassuring, I'll be honest. I was like, oh, there
Yeah.
wasn't an agenda here.
Yeah. First of all, I adore Bob Escher. Bob is a wonderful, he's a brilliant architect, and he was the founding father of the president. What's the phrase of it? The president of the U.S. Hemp Building Association. He
Hmm.
was the founding president, not the founding father. Um, and yes, he's done his own work on, let me poke some holes on it, because how can this one plant do? But the reality is that we use this plant for multiple reasons, multiple purposes for thousands of years. And because of racial motivation and political motivation for control of others, it was removed in 1937. And when we take anything, one thing out of our biodiversity, it throws everything out of kilter.
Yeah.
We cannot. We are so interconnected, and yet we refuse to believe that. We want to feel like we're above it all and we know better than Mother Nature. And we don't.
Hmm.
We don't. She will correct us every time. And
Yeah.
so, as many times as people would like to poke holes in this and make it the devil's seed and all of these things, the reality is that this plant is extremely beneficial for us, and
Yeah.
it's essential. And the reality, when you talk about the industrial hemp end of things, and we talk about CBD and we get into cannabinoids and that sort of thing,
Hmm.
cannabinoids, we have these receptors that we get in mother's breast milk.
Hmm.
It is a part of our chemistry.
Yeah.
We connect to that. So just think about that. I mean, think about the fact that we made a plant illegal to begin with is just ridiculously mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's a little foolish. I mean, a lot foolish, actually, is what I mean to say. And at the same time, it doesn't seem to be a lesson that we're going to learn. And I think it comes back to what you were saying, that there's a lot of we know better. And I'm a wonk. I love to read all sorts of articles and papers and data and everything. And there's something for sure that's comforting in thinking I know. And and I'm also, I had kids, so really, no, I don't know anything. I feel like the act of parenting is a constant, like, opportunity to really engage with your zen. Like I
Mhm.
have no control over anything, and
Absolutely. Yeah. That and age will tell you, the older you get, the less you know.
yeah, no, it's really true. I don't love that, but, I also don't love, the thing my hips, but, we can just ignore all of those things. They can be fantasy, but, like, me but, one of the things that, I've always found interesting in working within the community with you is that oftentimes when people introduce themselves, they'll identify their family lineage, um, and it speaks to me of, and it's another, like, you also, when you talk about the work that you do with Harmony Voices, you talk about future ancestors, and that feeling of constantly remembering and honoring that you are a part of, um, the world in which you inhabit, like the natural world as well as the world of time, that where you come from and who's coming after you is also a part of your consciousness. Um, I think that's so powerful of an example, especially in our modern society. We have in the Western world, and especially in America, we have an epidemic of loneliness. People, it's There's a rise in suicidal tendencies among children. There's one of the higher age groups to be increasing. Not to be a downer, guys, just to lay the foundation for the facts, which is that people are hurting. Like, people are actively defending a system that is genuinely hurting most of us.
Right.
And obviously, like, people in poverty and, people who are less favored, indigenous people, women, LGBTQ people, have felt the effects of this breakdown earlier and harder, and yet everybody is suffering because this doesn't work. We have to find ways to be engaged in our communities and feel that sense of connection. And it's one of the things that I've always loved about your work and the example that you set, and this idea of the longhouses, and that once again bringing forward this idea of something that can bring people together to exchange ideas, to share, to gather, to break bread or hempcrete. uh, um so, and I feel like I learned so much by being able to participate and see how that, because I don't feel like, as people educated in the mainstream community thing, we're always yearning for that. It's just not part of how modern mainstream American culture works. It's the opposite in my personal experience, is that it's focused on division
It's
and
I'm independent, I get to conquer on my own. Yeah, it's all of those things. Um, and we so need to embrace the other side of that,
mhm,
because we do need to connect. We are connected. We
mhm,
need to recognize that. We need to work together. We need to collaborate. There's that African proverb of, you rise together, if you work together, you rise together, right?
mhm. We will
Um,
rise together.
yeah, yeah. And those things are key. They're fundamental. I feel like a broken record, and I'm not saying anything new to anybody at any point. But these are things that I feel like we need a constant reminder of,
Mhm,
because we spend so much time, especially in this culture, and particularly, I recognize this in many, many countries, but I know, being in this country, in the States, it is all about that independence. It is all about the I am better than, I am greater than, I am, and we are nothing without each other.
mhm.
We are nothing without nature.
Yeah.
We are a part, we are a drop, we are a cell, in a tiny cell in this wonderful system, in this wonderful body. And it's a sacred body. So we need to treat it as such. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah. What do you so, in terms of the I feel like I'm trying to ask a leading question here. in terms of, like, that sacredness and the ways that I see it show up in the work that you do with people and Mother Earth, that the ways that you seem to always have that presence, or I mean, it's you're human, you probably get cranky occasionally, but, uh, but that presence of
You know that.
awareness. No, I don't. And, that awareness of that sacredness, and that is it something that you always had, or do you feel like, because I know that you also sought out opportunities to be in nature because you grew up in the city, um, where how do you think that came into your awareness and the way that you live?
Good question, and I'm not quite sure how to answer it because I don't remember a time where I did not feel that,
Mhm.
you know? And I really honestly feel like I have my mother to thank for that.
Yeah.
Um, she always made sure I was connected and reminding me of how many different ways we are connected,
Mhm.
you know? So the core value of whatever I do for another, I do for myself. This is, it's a part of what I grew up with, and yeah, so I don't remember a time where it wasn't a connection. There have been plenty of times in my life where I feel like I don't wanna be connected to you, and
I can relate.
you know? Um, yes, um, but, as much as I might feel that, I also have to recognize there's that shadow side, that dark side within me as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So, it's something that's always been there, and,
Yeah.
and it didn't yeah, I grew up in New York City, so, there's not a whole lot well, you get little pockets in the
Mhm.
city of the green and
Yeah.
feeling that nature connection, but I did go to an agricultural high school and then an ag university,
Yeah.
which was upstate New York. And then I worked with horses. I worked at a riding stable in New York, and these were the moments that really helped me
Mhm.
to make that thread of where I am today.
Mhm.
And I feel I've gone multiple times around the universe in life experience, and yet I don't really feel like I've gone very far. I feel like I've come back almost full circle in many ways,
Mhm.
from what I was experiencing as a child. Um, and I
When you
think
were
go
again?
back to
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You said you wanna go back to that feeling as of being a child, or
Yeah, I guess there's an element of going back to that feeling of a child, but certainly experiencing, you know, going through the path of going to schools, getting an education in animal care and husbandry and growing, putting your hands in the soil and that kind of thing. Um, and then going through, here's my life at this point, and I feel like I'm going back to that place and saying for myself and others, the healthiest thing we can do is to create our communities and go back to the soil, listen to what the plants have to say. They're a tremendous amount of medicine, and take care of each other. It is a very simple thing to do. It really
Mhm.
is. And yet, humans seem to be extremely challenged in this one. And I don't know. There's a part of me. There are some days where I question humanity. How long do we get to exist? I
Yeah.
feel like Mother can shake us like fleas at any moment, and maybe she should at some point. If we really don't get it together, if we continue on this path of destruction and
Mhm.
separation, then I do not believe. I think we are more damaging um, to all that there is.
Mhm.
Um, so we our time is short, and we got to get our act together. And
Mhm.
it's systemic change across the board is really what's needed.
Mhm.
And for me, this is a step in that direction in creating this hemp longhouse community.
So, when I wanted to acknowledge, Jonathan, earlier, he said this and I missed it, but I appreciate it. He said, "I feel like I know less going into my doctorate than I did going into high school." And I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I was so confident in my 20s in a way that like I struggle. I struggle to live there. So I feel that. Thank you for sharing.
Right there
Appreciate
with
you.
you, Jonathan. Yes, that's what I was saying. The older I get, at this point in my life, my God, there's so much less that I know today. And you listen to young people, and oftentimes, and I went through this myself, where you feel like, oh, I know that.
Mhm.
How much do I not know?
Mhm. Well, and you speak about that, and it's a side note, but I feel like one of the things that we could benefit more from is interaction across generations that people, I find I'm very blessed that I have people from a variety of walks of life and ideologies and ages in my world, and I feel like that is a constant influx of reminders of things that I forgot, as well as like information about new things to learn and grow from. And it's interesting because there seem to be some like arbitrary divides, and once again it speaks to what you were talking about, having a place where people can go hang out and be across differences and not have the and have those unnatural separations,
Mhm.
and like more integrated communities. So let's say I'm hanging out listening to this and I'm like, I want a longhouse in my community. Now I know we've got our pilot programs that we're working to build, but if somebody, wanted to do this in their community, um, what would they have to do? Like, do they write you an email?
They can write. They can give us a call. They can write.
Oh,
We've got the wonderful thing I find within the industry. Of course, now we have people who are going to be banging their drums upstairs.
oh,
Um,
good.
yeah.
This, there you go.
Wow. Okay. Um,
Here, I'm going to pop the
yeah.
website up for people while you talk about it.
Thank you. Yeah. So contact us. We've got a lot of connections, not only in the States, but our connections reach out internationally. There are
Mhm.
many, many people who've been working in the hemp industry, the cannabis industry for a whole lot of years, and experts in their fields. Um, so yes, reach out to us. But if you have the ability, if you have some land, you have the ability to grow, we can connect you to the people who have the right seed to literally grow that hemp that you can then make your own house with, that industrial hemp, because there are many different varieties, obviously, of this plant. So you have to know before you grow what it is that you are growing for and the best seed for that particular region. Because obviously, if you're growing in Florida, it's going to be very different than if you're growing in Iceland, right? Um, but we do have many, many talented people that we work with that we can connect you
So,
to
how to
help.
grow a house isn't just a catchy title; it's
How
actually
to grow
something
a house
someone could do.
quickly. Exactly. Yes, it is
That's
something
great.
you get to actually do. And and there are people, I know that there are people who've been, they did a small grow, roughly about an acre's worth of grow. And with that acre, they were able to build a small structure, a studio apartment kind of thing.
Hey,
With
we
an
have a
acre.
housing shortage in this country. A studio apartment would be a luxury to many humans.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
so, and when I started thinking about this originally, what got me on this path in the hemp industry is because in Haiti, we have multitudes of people who live in nothing more than shacks, right? Their homes are cardboard, there are banana leaves and that sort of thing, and maybe some mud. So the idea of being able to have people grow their own home,
mhm.
you take this little seed, within less than 120 days, you're going to have it fully grown, and you can that, and you process it, and you mix the hemp, the herd, the portion of the hemp plant that you're using. You mix that with limestone and water, That's it. And then you can do anything from making panels to making bricks to spraying, doing a spray technique. It really is amazing what you get to do with this one plant.
Mhm. Like I said, when we first started talking about it, I was like, "No, that can't." And I mean, I'm not saying I didn't believe you, but I just was like, "That doesn't seem real," because the honestly, the things that people are talk about with hemp and hempcrete in terms of, like, the natural, insulation factor that it has, the natural resistance to mold, the ways that, like, if you built a small hemp structure in your farm, you could actually use it to keep some of the vegetables and things that you need to keep cool. Like, it's not a full refrigerator, but it can actually keep things cool without extra energy. So there's so many, and I'm just like, oh, that can't be true. And then I look up, yep, it is. Like, wow, like this
Yeah,
thing,
and
and
you're
then
not
you're,
worried about mold, you're not worried about,
yeah,
all of those kind of things. Fire resistant,
fire
right? You
resist.
put
That's
clothes
right.
torch to it, it's gonna singe in that one spot, it's not going down. These are the earthquake resistant,
Hmm.
is something else that we have to be aware of when working in Haiti.
Right.
Um,
That
yeah.
makes sense. When I remember one of the first projects we worked on with a wind farm was, talking to them about how to work to build toilets
Mhm,
with hempcrete, because sanitation is so important to community health,
mhm,
and it once again, getting materials and getting those kinds of things down to different countries when they're having import issues and other things versus getting seeds that they can plant. And I felt like such a win when you were able to negotiate to get some of those seeds into the country for the farm that we work with. And I know there's always other challenges, but
yeah,
but you know, like that whole process was so empowering to see that, you know, that instead of trying to get large bulky supplies, you can
mhm,
get a small amount, and then with some instruction, the people are then empowered to create the things that they need.
mhm,
So it was, yeah, but it's hard to wrap my head around the fact that it's objectively such an amazingly powerful plant that can address a lot of our climate issues. You know, if we were to make more hemp paper as opposed to regular paper, it
mhm,
would, you know, and that's something Maren Craig's talked about. Like the refugee crisis is related primarily to climate change. And one of the biggest impacts for climate change is paper products. If we just switched to as much paper from hemp as possible, we could see real impact globally
mhm,
and genuinely helping people's lives be better.
mhm.
And that doesn't seem like a radical thing. Like hemp paper's fine. It's not it I've used it. It's, you know, just the same as other paper, has a slightly different feel. Like why is that a radical suggestion?
Right, right. Yeah, and that is the big question. Why is any of this radical?
Mhm. Well, why? Do you have that answer for us today? This minute? Can you can you
Yeah,
explain the structures that we're dealing with completely and why they exist? Do you have
well,
time for that?
I mean, the only reason why we look at this as radical today is because we took something that everyone had access to, and we were told it was bad, it's illegal, it's just immoral, it's all of those things. It's dangerous, and we drank the Kool-Aid.
Mhm.
The people drank the Kool-Aid, that believed the lies that they were told,
Mhm.
and then implemented all sorts of changes in order to get us to this point.
Yeah.
And so now we think of this as, this is something big, it's new, it's radical, and it's none of those things.
It's plant.
It's a plant. It's a plant. We
Mhm.
made a plant illegal. Think about
Yeah.
that. Think of the insanity behind that,
Yeah. And the
right?
disconnection, right? Like how do you do that if you're connected to the biodiversity that we need to thrive in?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, so if you want to be part of the hemp revolution, am I allowed to say that? Yeah. Is that the right word? Uh, just definitely, reach out, get connected with Alicia. Like she said, she's not necessarily, I mean, she'll obviously help you, but she knows lots of folks that could give you more accurate information for where you are if you or someone you know wants to grow their own house.
And I have to say, in in the many places that I worked with a variety of people on this planet, the folks that I have met in the industrial hemp industry, they're like family.
Mm,
I've met so many folks who are just, yes, we want to help. How can we help? How can we be a part? And within, we talk about supporting women. We talk about supporting BIPOC women.
mhm,
I've had more support from white males than anybody else in this industry.
mhm. And they're very gracious.
They're
I know
gracious.
this because one of them reached out to Alicia, and I was one who and I thought it was one of those salesy people, and I was not
Jeremy.
friendly. I wasn't unfriendly, but I was definitely like, "What do you want? What do you want to do?" And he was so gracious and patient. He's like, "No, no, no. We really just want to connect and support the process." I'm like, "Oh, he really does mean that." He's like the sweetest human.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
so yeah, no, I agree. It's a really it's a I wouldn't say idealistic community because there's definitely a lot of practicality and a lot of work. I haven't met anyone in the community who doesn't actually get down to it and work. And I think that's one of the things that I've seen with the work that you do is that if people aren't going to work, they don't last very long. Partially because we got to keep up with you. um, so before you were a hemp activist and nonprofit founder and vision holder, you were a professional musician.
Yes, I was.
And you have a song, "Hope is All We've Got."
Hope is what we got.
Oh, "Hope is What We've Got."
Mhm.
And, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like that's so core to the work that you do. Unless that feels like an ambush, then we could try something else.
Not quite an ambush. Yeah. Um, it's one of those things. In the beginning of it, when she came into this world, hope was what she got, and she carried it with her. When less was more of what she got, and I think it's something that we need to hold on to today. I know that there are plenty of people who say, well, we need so much more than hope, and yes, we do. But in this world that is so wounded, if we do not look at what there is to be hopeful for, then we've kind of missed the boat on this whole thing.
Yeah.
So, yes. Did you cue that song up? Is that something that's going to be playing at some point, or are we
No,
going to
I would
talk?
not I would have warned you of that. I'm sorry. I but I just it was something that, actually recently came to mind because that I put out the information about this event. A friend of mine reached out, and then we ended up chatting, and she's like, "Yeah, Alicia she played at my wedding," and I'm like, "No." And it's just kind of a neat awareness of the interconnectedness of all these different experiences that we have in the world, and the ways in which you whether it was through music or through the other kinds of body work and healing that you did or this, you've always been engaging in that integration, sustainability, connection process to kind of bring people together and to create something larger than just your thing. Um, so I don't know, I thought that was real sweet. Um, so 2023, we want to build this longhouse.
We want to build this longhouse. Yes, we need to. And I would like for it to be here in the States. Our primary focus right now, as far as land is concerned, is in the upstate, the Hudson area.
Mhm.
We do have some connections there. Um, and we would have the ability to, there's land available. Ideally, if we had 100 acres of land, we would be able to do more than what we need to do and expand and be able to build literally a community out of hemp within that land.
Mhm.
Um, but I would also like to have something in the Denver area on a smaller basis, more of an educational. Um, as you know, we've been spending time. You went with me this last go around to Amsterdam, and and that is moving forward as well. And we've got people who are very interested in it.
Mhm.
Uh, and we would have the ability, being on that side of the pond, then have access to like the Sami people, the
Mm.
indigenous peoples of not the Netherlands, but the region of being in Finland and in Norway and Russia and that area. Those are the Sami people. So we could have that cultural exchange as well there
Mhm.
with folks that are on this side of the pond. So, but
And I'm gonna
me
bring go ahead.
personally, being a New Yorker, I would
Mhm.
love to see the first one being in New York State.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No.
Well, I mean, and it sounds like, the things are moving forward, and it's one of those things I've seen with large projects is there's so much prep and everything, and then you finally get things going, you gotta just ride the train. Uh,
Mm.
one of the things that we talk about a lot, there's actually 2 statistics that I wanna share real quick. One, we've said it before, we'll say it again. 0.2% of all philanthropic dollars go to Native serving organizations, and that doesn't mean Native led or Indigenous led.
Right,
It
right.
just means Native serving, and so one of the reasons that we obviously participate in Giving Tuesday, and we'll do Colorado Gives next week, is to bring awareness to the work that we're doing, the work that we want to do, and the fact that when you read about all of these philanthropic dollars out there, they are not coming to organizations like Harmony Voices.
Yes.
It's just the 99.8% of it goes otherwhere.
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
and that's just the facts that we're dealing with. And then the 80% of the land that is stewarded to provide us with breathable air and clean water is stewarded by indigenous peoples who make up 5% of the global
5% of the population.
population. And so whether it's Alicia and her many voices, definitely work to support your indigenous people and communities and organizations, because they are the reason that we have clean air and water, and will likely be the reason that we have it in the future. So
Mhm,
it's really whatever I do for another, I do for myself for real, like extra.
mhm.
So
Yes. Yeah, we can't forget that, and indigenous, there are of African peoples who are doing work to take care of clean water.
mhm,
There are peoples in the Middle East, the tribal peoples who are looking to gain some water from their region that is it's pretty
mhm,
drought area. There are places all over this planet, indigenous peoples all over this planet that have been doing the things that need to be done to keep the balance.
mhm.
We are very much out of balance today,
Yeah.
so we need to return to that.
I know, one of the things that you do a lot is you speak and consult with organizations and at events to bring forward this information and this perspective. I is there, is there anything notable from this last year? You did so many different presentations that you wanna, like, bring forward in this moment for folks, or any messaging that you feel would be helpful for folks to carry forward around. I wanna make it vague enough that you could be inspired.
Hmm. Wow, there have been so many places this last year, so many speaking engagements, and so many people that I've met along the way.
Yeah.
Um, anytime the conversation has been brought back to the connection to not only each other, but to the connection of all of our environment, to the plants, to the rivers, to the trees, all of that. Anytime that conversation has come up, that to me has been the most inspiring. That speaks to me the most. To take that time to you sit in nature, and I don't care if you're in the middle of a forest or if you're in the middle of Manhattan, you can find a place of nature and commune with it. And I've had more than one conversation this last year with people on that topic. To me, that's the most inspiring, recognizing how connected we are
Mhm.
in this whole thread of life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's one of the antidotes, to the loneliness, is that awareness
Mm,
of connection, the opportunity to be connected.
mhm.
Um, and I'm putting a little question in here. Does anyone have any questions or things they wanna share? We're gonna go for a few more minutes. Obviously, I'll do that. Please, if you feel so inspired, please do donate or share the donation link out, um, because we very much want to reach these goals. We want to build these long houses. We want to get this message out there. We want people to understand they aren't alone. You really aren't alone. There are other people working, maybe not with you, but in parallel, to build something that actually works for everybody, to
Mhm.
address hunger and poverty and a lack of shelter. And there are people who do care. We are all in this together. And some people are aware of that and some people aren't. But there are a lot of people who are truly doing this work. So, if you can't donate to us, we understand, but we hope that you will, and we hope that you will also get involved in your community and be part of the solutions and the connection.
There are lots of people who are doing their community gardens,
Mhm.
spend some time there. We have friends here in Denver. Um, we have the Greenhouse Connection with Harmony is she's some amazing work with her community in the Denver area. It's a double dose on the EPA site. Um, so there's a lot of toxin in that community, and she's doing her best to work with people in the community.
Mhm.
There are so many different ways that we get to do that. I don't care if you're in a tiny apartment or you've got 1,000 acres behind you. There are different ways that you get to tend to mother and to all of us in a
Mhm.
healthier way. Do it. Take that action. You don't need anything big. We've done over time. We've worked with Shannon Francis, and
Mhm.
he's done indigenous permacultural trainings for us, and we're getting ready to cycle back into that again. And
Mhm.
we are doing these trainings from an apartment. We have access to land, but we're doing these from an apartment because we are in the Denver region, and there are folks who they have some apartments.
Mhm.
Well, guess what? You can grow your own food within your small apartment. You can have that kind of impact. And science validates. You put your hands in soil, there's a chemical reaction.
Mhm. They've
Our
shown
brain
that.
responds to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and that was so, we some of the programs that we'll be doing in 2023 are the ongoing ones that's when we did with Shannon Francis, the Community Garden Project, where we give, seed kits and instructions on how to grow native plants in your home for your own food and your family. And then we'll be obviously doing Earth Day, and it's a mouthful. Indigenous wisdom to face modern challenges. I want it to be less of a mouthful, but I don't know how to get there. But we'll be doing the first. So we conceived of this in 2019, and then obviously 2020 doing a public gathering was not going to happen. And so we did it online, and in some ways that was a gift because we were able to do such a global event. We had people from 5 continents, 11 countries, spending 13 hours sharing wisdom, art, expression, traditional practices, spiritual wisdom. And we'll be doing that again, and we'll keep the online component because it was so powerful. We did it last year, also only online. But this year, we're going to take a brave step into a physical experience. We, we haven't determined where for sure, um, but we're really excited to be doing that again. Obviously, we want to do the Longhouse Project. And I'm sure you'll be speaking everywhere as you do. What are there other things that you're excited about for 2023?
Hmm. Well, I'm really excited about our Earth Day this year,
Yeah.
our Earth Day event this year. And yes, even more so excited because we are going to have these pockets of we get to do this in person on the ground with others in the
Yeah.
same area. As opposed to everybody just being online. And this is a wonderful tool, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Having this available to us is a wonderful tool, but there is nothing like being in the same room, breathing the same air, the same presence of others.
Yeah.
um, so I'm excited about doing that this year. I'm sorry, guys, the sun is starting to hit in a big way, trying to
Mhm.
find that little location where I'm not so shiny. um,
It's your inner light.
So yes, Earth Day. Looking forward to that a great deal. Um, there's a lot of people shift,
Mhm.
so I'm hesitant to say I'm looking forward to what's going on this coming year.
Mhm.
Um, it does not come without challenges, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I am seeing some positive things that will help to bring us all together.
Mhm.
Um, Let me see if I move a little bit. Okay, here we go. So there's positive to that, and I
Mhm.
think that will help our organization as well.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm holding a space and I'm holding light, literally, for, as you spoke earlier, out of 100% of the monies that come into the philanthropic world, we get such a minute amount for people of color, right? So 0.5% period for people of color.
Mhm.
And so I'm getting more and more people who are contacting me and saying, well, how can we help? And, we go back to, listen, we have the responsibility, as you said, 80% of care of this planet is done by the 5% on the planet of the indigenous peoples. And yet we seem to be doing this without the resources of the land or the finances that
Mhm.
others have access to. So if you really want to help, give that way. Donate the land. Don't say, well, come use my land, and then dictate to others how it's used. Give the land back to the people. Give a portion of your financial resources, if those of you who have, give that, because you're going to be reaping the benefits of that. Your children and your grandchildren and theirs and so on will thank you for having done that, because you're giving to the people who are really the light keepers. They're the ones you've got to look to towards the future. This is not going to change based on the trajectory that we put ourselves on. And it won't change if people continue to hoard land and monies.
Mhm.
Those things are needed. So I'm hopeful that this year people will recognize that and give, unconditionally give. That's the key part of this. We have had a couple of offers, but it's with those little strings attached. I'm not interested in the strings.
Yeah.
None of us need those.
Yeah. It's a comment here. Someone says, "But people have bad habits," and it's true. We have to. Thank you, MZ, for saying hello. We have to let go of that fear that we're not going to have enough. That if we share, that we lose out. Like, and that this idea, to go back to where we started, we talked about that the pain of individualism, in that idea that, like, I have to figure it all out myself. Someone was talking about how so much of this is really rooted in racism and the ways in which, when segregation ended, well, white people across the country destroyed public parks, public pools. Like, a lot of this, like, distance that we're dealing with is the result of temper tantrums thrown by white supremacists at the end of segregation, and the destruction of these public spaces and public transport, because they didn't want to share it with with the people of color. And it's gross and it's harmful, and we honestly, as a country, just need to grow up and move forward and recognize that we no one can do it by themselves. This idea that people do it by themselves, it's usually because they have a lot of people they're paying, or a lot of people who are invested in their success that do a lot of emotional labor and free labor. And so this idea of the rugged individual who's bootstrapping himself or their self is complete fiction, and it damages us, instead of us working together as communities and sharing the tasks, which is how people functioned for a very long time. If you have one person cooking a meal for 10 or 20, that saves the 19 other people that time to be able to go do another task, whether it's an art expression or harvesting or caring for children. And as communities, people then had more time. They could do the things that they were more skilled at and share the responsibilities. And there's this almost bizarre fear of that. Like, I don't get it. I would totally be happy to share my chores with people. I don't. I'm like, sure, I'll do more of this when you do more. Sure, that's fine. I mean, overall, the math works out. Like, why not?
Yes, it's a definite win-win. Yeah.
Right? That's the win-win. So, I mean, it's we have a lot of cleaning up here in this country specifically. Jonathan, thank you, Jonathan. Da Vinci wouldn't have done Jack if he had to wash his own underpants. I feel the inspiration of that. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Yeah, because right, like, it's just we need that. I don't know what it is. Is it a fear of loss of control or something? I mean, that's a whole other topic that we can get into another day. But I'm for it, and I really hope that folks who are here will pass this on and donate to Harmony Voices, and see if there's a place in your community that you want to grow a house. Give us a call, and we'll set you up. And when I say us, I mean Alicia will. That's who's gonna do that. I'll be there. I'll cheer you on. You don't want me to set you up. Like, I did not go to an agricultural high school. I can grow herbs in Washington State where you throw seeds at the ground and things sprout. That's how I was really good at that.
That's not a bad thing to do either, right?
So, no, it was great.
It's a wonderful thing. I mean, to be able to be in your community, you walk down the street and you have trees that are bearing fruit. You have vegetables, and these are they're accessible to everyone. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Not, oh, you're in violation of the HOA, you got to get rid of your front garden. I mean, that's hostile. That really is truly hostile. And it's counter to everything that we need in this world.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's true. Well, I'll say, like, I grew up in the suburbs, and I remember I was 23 years old the first time I grew something. Now, my grandparents always had a garden, so it wasn't that I didn't experience fresh fruits and vegetables. And that was a beautiful, like, there's nothing more luxurious than being a small child, pulling raspberries off the bush and it's just like
Mhm.
it's luxurious in a way that is difficult to describe if you haven't experienced it. But I just remember I was like, I've never grown anything myself. And so I got this little packet and I had honestly like a foot by foot square of dirt. Like that's all I had. Because I didn't really, and I just like, dug it out and I nurtured this little tomato plant probably the way some people nurture like a baby. Like I was just, but it felt indescribably awesome
Mhm.
to watch a seed turn into a plant. And I love tomatoes too. So I picked it and I'm eating. I'm like, I was a part of growing this. Like I can't, there's no words. And if you haven't had that experience, honestly, even just I strongly encourage you to try. And, once again, there's lots of online resources or reach out to Alicia. She'll absolutely connect you with someone. But it's an amazingly awesome, in the original sense of the word, experience to be part of that cycle of growth and to connect to the earth. Like you said, there's so many physical, like neurological benefits that they've proven. So, and Jonathan also says it was tomatoes for him as a kid. Same, that luxury of those fresh vegetables. It's almost like you can taste the sunlight.
You can definitely taste the difference in it. As a matter of fact, I ordered a meal this weekend with tomatoes on it, which I never do, but I did it because I knew that these were homegrown tomatoes. Because if you get the tomatoes that are off the shelf or the average restaurant, they don't have they're not like it was when I was a child, that's for sure. They lack in their taste and the flavor and the nutritional value because of how we are growing today.
Hmm.
Last year, for a couple of years, I grew corn and string beans and tomatoes and all sorts of peppers. I love spicy foods, and I had a bunch of peppers out on my balcony,
Hmm.
and I had more than enough.
Hmm.
So it was great to be able to enjoy the bounty of that,
Hmm.
and share it with others.
Yeah. No, and there's something very sweet and special in that. Like I feel lucky that I know so many growers, and my friends are always like, "Oh, I have too many bean starts," or "Do you want some?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'm happy to try and kill something else. Like that's no problem." Like, oh yeah, I got that. Sure. And I don't know, it's just sweet. Sometimes they actually grow, and then I get to have this thing. It's amazing.
But
But, thank you so much. I know that I would love to keep you, and I know that you've, yeah. I appreciate you being here to share and doing the work that you do, and I'll say put one more pitch out, like, folks, if you can share this information, share what we're up to with Her Many Voices, share the donate if you can. And if you can't, just shoot us a line and tell us that, what you're up to in your community, show up for people because it's not just money that's going to make the difference. We need that to move the Longhouse Project forward. But we also recognize there are so many kinds of resources, and we believe that if everybody does their part, we will create the change that we need.
well said, Aisla. I am so thankful for you because especially in moments like this, and I could just sit back and you can speak the truth. You do it well. You do
Thanks.
it well.
I am so honored to be here and to be supporting this work because I feel like it's so hard to watch the things that are happening and to feel that sense of doom. And then I'd be like, all right, but I'm part of this other thing that's working for that hope. And
Yes.
that's all we can do is commit ourselves to the things that we believe in and give it our all. And
Do what you can where
Mhm.
you can, where you
Yeah,
are,
it's a
in
great
your
way to
own
put
backyard,
it.
your own community, wherever you are, do what you can.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. Have a great day, folks. We're gonna do another one of these color to gives day, and it might mix it up and actually be on longer. I don't know. Mostly, we just want to give people a chance to hear what we're up to connect with us, and to know why we're trying to raise money and what we're going to do with it. And honestly, it's just kind of fun to see y'all and say hi. So we'll see. But take care. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Bye bye.
We'll have our story. We will